do a little video about what some of the exit polls have showed us, at least from Washington State, and how Bernie can use what the exit polls are telling us to hopefully change around some of the things that his campaign is doing with regards to messaging in order to get some momentum back, in order to get some of the electorate that Joe Biden, currently has. So Bernie, a good thing is pretty much, well, a majority of the states, not all of them, but Bernie Sanders, including Washington State, he won the moderate vote, so he got 35% compared to Biden's 25 for independent people who identify as independents or something else, which was actually 34% of the Washington electorate. So, pretty big constituency. Biden won among the demographic who identified as moderates, which, again, it's like why me and other people like Kyle Klinsky has made the point. Bernie Sanders needs to paint himself as the moderate. He's the centrist, he's the moderate. Joe Biden's the radical extremist, because, again, all of these 20 states that have had their primary and caucuses so far, 20 out of 20 of those states have overwhelmingly supported Medicare for all. So Bernie needs to be like, no, I'm the moderate, I'm the centrist. I along with the majority of Americans support people getting health care. Joe Biden's the radical, he's the extremist. He's okay with people dying due to lack of access to health care. He's okay with people still going bankrupt. He's the radical, he's the extremist. He needs to make that message. So, and then Bernie won with voters who identified as very liberal. And then, so this is where the momentum really swung, because with voters that decided this month who they were going to support, Joe Biden got 55% of the vote compared to Bernie's 19. Obviously, that has to do with the South Carolina primary. Biden won there, and then the huge media narrative, as well as all of the endorsements. And, I think one of the mistakes that Bernie Sanders campaign and his team made was not to try to really blunt all of the momentum that was going Joe Biden's direction after getting endorsed by Klobuchar, Buttigieg, Beto O'Rourke, now Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Andrew Yang. Bernie Sanders and his team need to really be doing everything they can behind the scenes to get whatever endorsements that they can to stop some of this momentum, to change the media narrative, at least to blunt it a little bit, instead of just letting all these endorsements go to Biden and Bernie Sanders, with not as many. I mean, he did get endorsed by Jesse Jackson over the weekend, which is good, but they need to be really courting more of these endorsements, like behind the scenes. Go talk to Tulsi, go talk to Steyer, and just other people that could benefit Bernie and his movement. And then for the voters that decided earlier, Biden only had 21% of the vote compared to Bernie's 40%. So it's basically, this election basically has came down to really the last couple of weeks and just the huge surge that Biden has experienced from all those other people dropping out and then going to him, as well as, doing well in South Carolina. So, and Bernie does a lot better with voters who are actually just concerned about the issues. 55% of those voters went for Bernie compared to Biden's 17%, and that was 29% electorate. And then, so this is where Bernie and his team really need to change around the messaging that they've been doing. So 68% of the voters voted on if the candidate could defeat Donald Trump or not. And those ones that did, Biden got 39% of the vote compared to Bernie's 23%. So this is why, again, it's hugely detrimental when Bernie Sanders goes out there and gives these interviews and said, no, I think Joe Biden can defeat Donald Trump if he is the nominee. That is the exact opposite message Bernie needs to be saying right now, especially considering pretty much all of the momentum is on Joe Biden's side of the equation. You do not want to be giving them reasons to vote for Joe Biden. You need to be making the case why you are the only candidate that can defeat Donald Trump. Not only is it not true, Joe Biden would absolutely get crushed by Trump. NAFTA, Iraq war, bankruptcy bill, wanting to cut Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, um, um, working with segregationists, the drug war, the crime bill, the corruption that surrounds Biden and Hunter Biden in Ukraine, the obvious cognitive decline. Trump is going to hammer away at all of those things, and effectively, Bernie Sanders is the only one who can defeat Donald Trump. Bernie needs to say that. His surrogates, people who just support him in general, we need to really be making the case that Bernie is the only candidate who can defeat Donald Trump. So it's really horrible political strategy for Bernie going out there and saying he thinks Biden can defeat Donald Trump. It's not true, and again, it's just the optics of it are very bad. It's not going to get more people to support Bernie when Joe Biden's the front runner at this point. He has all momentum. Even Bernie said he can defeat Donald Trump. Why would I support Bernie? Bernie needs to be making the case. He is the electable candidate. Joe Biden is Hillary 2.0. We saw how that went. She lost, obviously. Same thing would happen to Biden. Hammer away on the electability message. So Washington State, 68% of the voters were voting on who they thought could defeat Donald Trump. And those that did, by a 16-point margin, thought that was Joe Biden. They need to be doing a much better job at that, and stop saying he's your friend. Stop saying you think he can defeat Donald Trump. Get rid of all that garbage. Start hammering away on the electability issue. Hugely important. And then they also, so these voters in Washington thought that Biden can unite the country and that Bernie could bring about the change. And then, so some of the top issues which I thought were really interesting, 37% of the voters identified healthcare as a top issue, which 35% of them supported Biden on this issue compared to 33% for Bernie, which is obviously very interesting considering just the other day Joe Biden said during an interview with Lawrence O'Donnell on MSNBC that he would veto a Medicare for All bill if it was somehow able to get past the House and Senate. Joe Biden would veto it. He's horrible on health care, and that is a hugely important issue to Democratic voters. Bernie needs to keep hammering away at that. Joe Biden doesn't want you to have Medicare for all. Majority of Americans support it. Joe Biden's extremist. He's the radical. I'm the centrist. I'm the moderate. I want to provide health care for everybody. Majority of Americans are with me. I'm the centrist. I'm the moderate. Climate change. 24% of the voters, that was their top issue. 30% supported Biden. 36% for Bernie. Bernie's obviously hugely or much better on the climate, supports a Green New Deal, and Biden's okay with the status quo. He wants to rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement. So that's a step. It's not enough. It's an existential crisis, as Bernie points out. Folks that were concerned with income inequality, Bernie got 36% of the vote, Biden 26%. So again, just the overarching takeaways from this exit poll from Washington State, and I'm, assuming it's probably similar in other states. Bernie needs to hammer away at the electability issue. The voters in Washington still think probably that Biden can defeat Donald Trump. Hammer away at that. Bernie's the electable candidate. Joe Biden's Hillary 2.0. And as well as the moderates. Characterize Bernie as the moderate. He's the centrist. He supports all these policies and platforms that a majority of the U.S. supports. Joe Biden's the radical and the extremist for not supporting those. And I hope during the debate, well, it's more of a town hall now because the DNC is trying to hide Joe Biden and his serious and sad cognitive decline. Bernie needs to hammer away that he is the only candidate who can defeat Donald Trump, as well as making the case that he is the moderate. So we'll see. I hope he really, again, just hammers away on those messages. Bernie beats Trump. Biden loses. Biden's Hillary 2.0. Bernie's the moderate. Joe Biden's the radical, the extremist. So I would love to hear your thoughts about some of these strategies of how Bernie can get some momentum back, and I would love to hear if you have any other ones that I didn't think about. Peace, much love. Bernie 2020, not me, us. Bernie.